Hi there, I'm Palma Lindsay from K Fundamentals, and I'm here to talk to you guys for ESGI today. I taught TK through 8th grade for 37 years for the Newhall School District in Southern California. Absolutely loved teaching. My last 20 years were in kinder. My last 3 years were in a TKK combo. And then the last 10 years, I've also, which overlapped with some of that teaching, I taught teachers on a professional level. I provided professional development workshops at conferences all across North America, so United States and Canada. Well, I've always been a data-driven teacher, and so I was doing all of these assessments by hand, and I was trying to keep track of everything, and it was crazy. And when I saw ESGI for the first time, I just absolutely couldn't believe it was like a dream come true. All my wishes came true. So what resonated with me was that I always wanted to know exactly where students were, where their skill level was, so that I could be providing individualized instruction for my students. That was my training back in college, and that's what I've always tried to strive for. So it was about 2008 when I was at a conference, and in fact, the founder of ESGI was there, Greg, and they were demonstrating this new computerized program, and they said, come over here and look at this. And I just stood there with my jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe this can do everything I've been trying to do by hand. And I'm like, I want this. How much is it? And I bought it for myself. Best money I ever spent. I paid for it my first year, shared it with my team and my administrator. She loved it. And she said, next year, I'm going to pay for it for all of you, right here at this school, which she did. And then the following year, she took it to the district, and they've been using it still in the Newhall School District since, I believe, 2009 or 2010. And they're still using it, even though the other grade levels are using other methods of assessments. The kindergarten teachers there have said, no, we want to keep ESGI, and they've been using it ever since. It was the best money I ever spent. I wouldn't teach without it. If they told me that they weren't going to pay for it, I would have just paid for it myself. It's important at all levels, but especially at early childhood, because you don't want children to fall between the cracks early on. You also want to know if there are some red flags, maybe some learning disabilities, which if you can then go back and look at your data and see, when did the child start learning? When did the light bulb start going on? Then you can, or maybe it didn't, then you've got evidence. You can go back and show documented evidence so that you can maybe get this child help, especially in early childhood. It's in kindergarten especially. It's really difficult to get children into a program to meet all of their needs. But in terms of how important is progress monitoring in early childhood, you want to also make sure that if a child already knows, let's say, all their letters and sounds, that you're not being redundant with your lessons. So it allows you to drive your instruction by looking at your assessments and plan small group instruction. You can have children who already know these skills in one group. Another group might have children who need remediation in certain areas. It allows you to plan RTI, or response to intervention. I can pull the 2 children or the 5 children who don't know the sight word said, for instance, up to the table for 5 minutes and do a quick mini lesson just for those children on the 1 skill or 2 skills that they don't have. So I can provide RTI, response to intervention, or enrichment for children who already have the skills, because I can completely individualize. I really loved this in a combination classroom. Any classroom that you have is going to have about a 2 years learning span. In terms of skills, but a combo class is going to have even a wider span. So I was able to take a 4-year-old who could read and say, come on over here and meet with this group. We're doing all this other stuff with reading this text and analyzing it. But then I could take a K student who might all be almost 6 years old, but didn't have the foundation, the reading foundation, and say, meet with me with this other group. And how do I know who needs the differentiated instruction? Is by looking at my ESGI data. Well, my assessments are called Transitional Kindergarten, or TK assessments. And what I like about them is that, Transitional Kindergarten isn't just kindergarten light. It really focuses on the foundations of kindergarten. So yes, you're going to have your basic tests like letter and number recognition, or sound recognition, sight words, things like that. But you're going to get those foundational tests. For instance, visual discrimination, spatial relations, spatial position words, naming or identifying colors. If children don't know these basic things, rhyming, can they identify a rhyme? Can they produce a rhyme? Very different skills. If they don't have those skills, you really can't move forward with reading instruction until you've developed those skills. So my tests are not only the basic kindergarten entrance skills like letter and number recognition, writing letters and numbers, counting sets, but also rote counting. But they are also include a lot of foundational skills. And something else that you can get with my tests, because of my experience with teaching, children love to come up and be tested by ESGI. Anybody who's already used it knows that their students beg to be tested. But once a child gets in front of the computer and they start feeling like they're getting some questions wrong, they might lose some confidence. So what you get with my tests, and this is based on my experience, is that I've ordered things in a way that will build confidence in the students. For instance, number recognition. It's way easier to recognize the numerals 14, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Easier than recognizing 13 and 15, because 13 and 15 begin with the sound of the ordinal number, third and fifth, instead of the numeral name 4, like 14, 6, like 16. So I don't test 13 and 15, 11 and 12, until I've tested 14 and 16, 17, 18, and 19 first. So while the child is being tested on 14 and 16 and they're getting them correct, I'm like, wow, you got the hard ones? You're terrific, you're amazing. And now they see the numeral 15 on the screen. And because I've built up their confidence and they feel like they've gotten so many correct, they're going to take the risk and they're going to look at the 15 and they might at first go 15, but then they'll go 15 and they'll most times get it correct because they've built up confidence while testing. So and another thing too, like my sight word test is very short because it's a TK test, but the way it's set up lends itself to the ease of testing for the teacher and the student. So if a teacher wants to go in and copy that test, change out the words to the sight words that go with their district or their mandated basal, whatever they're using, program that they're using, they can. So the way the tests are set up, I think, are very user-friendly. Every year, but most importantly this year, teachers are going to be faced with students who are coming into their classrooms without any real measurable end of the year testing from the spring of 2020. So it will be most important to establish a benchmark in the fall of 2020, if school does resume, and hopefully. And then they will, by using ESGI, they can get a benchmark for every one of their students. They can not only then create small group groups for small group instruction, but they can also create whole group instruction by looking at the data and looking to see what is it my whole class needs, what is my whole class lacking. Maybe everybody's lacking rhyming skills. I could do a whole group lesson. So you could drive your instruction based on all of the assessments that you give at the beginning of the year. So I think benchmark beginning of the year assessments would be the most important thing for hitting the ground running. And then the second thing would be, where are the big gaps? Because I need to concentrate on those children who need that RTI, or response to intervention. And I think that the parents and the admins will also appreciate that you have all that data to share with them about, what did my child lose by not being in school in the spring of 2020, or how did my homeschooling help them? It would give them some measurable data for parents, admins, and for the teacher. So I think the ESGI would be most important this year more than ever.